That Davis Show. We are back. We got a lot to get into today. Bears have a new quarterback.
And a new offensive lineman.
Well, who's the new
Same
offensive
reaction.
lineman?
Jermaine Ifedi back.
Oh, yeah. It's funny on the Under Center podcast, Adam Hogue had mentioned that he wouldn't mind if Jermaine Ifedi came back. We got a show dropping today about the Andy Dalton situation. And I like to put it like that, situation.
I was a year late. I remember with D, I was telling you guys, Andy Dalton. A year too late.
Yeah, year too late. And then again, we got to jump into March
too
Madness.
early, I'm sorry.
Here in the state of Illinois, we're revved up for our local teams, Loyola, but really with the Fighting Illini. And then we got to go over with spring training winding down and our two crosstown teams with the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Cubs and close out with a little bit of up for grabs. But let me go off top.
Off top?
All right. And I've been wanting to get this story out. I haven't really told anybody about this story. So I went, I think it was 2 days ago. Today is, I don't know if that was Sunday night or yesterday night. It may have been yesterday. When did I tell you?
It was yesterday.
It was last night. It was last night, right? Let you know how my brain had to put some distance in between it. So I went to throw the recycling out, right? And before I walk over to the recycling bin, I have two garbage cans. Then I have the recycle, like two garbage cans right here, like this, and then the recycling bin's like over this way in front of the gate, but turned sideways so it's not poking out in the alley and obstructing anybody from driving through the alley. So I'm going to the recycling, and I decide because it snowed yesterday. I said, you know what? Let me knock this snow off of the top of the garbage lid so it won't be heavy. You know what I'm saying? Just in case it's stuck, but just so it won't be heavy. So I just pop it up. It falls back down, right? So I pop it. And in this hand, I have my recyclables, right? Pop it up, falls back down. Then all of a sudden, it flies open, right? And as it flies open, there is a dang raccoon who leapt up. And this was a question after them, like, how does the raccoon get out the garbage can? I was like, I don't know. I guess it jumped. The damn thing, Ryan, hit the lid like this, all right, to let you know the vertical jump of the raccoon. He hit the lid, then grabbed onto the edge and thrust himself out of the garbage can, ran over the fence. The fences are probably about 5'6", jumped over the fence, upside down like this, and stared at me, right? So we're staring.
Like this?
I'm sitting there. Exactly. I'm sitting there, heart jumping. I swear I may have cursed. I know I said, whoa, right? Like, and the things look, and I said, and this is how I know this raccoon speaks English. I said, go on, raccoon. And the raccoon just jumped down and started to walk away, right?
Oh, perfect, because I found your raccoon. This is the guy that attacked you, right?
Exactly. After calls him Rocky, he definitely got after my ass. So I come in the house and I'm just like, whoa, because my heart is like, it just startled the living crap out of me, right? And she's like, what? And I was like, I'll tell you when I come downstairs. And when I come downstairs, she's like, it's something to do with Rocky? You mean like Rocky and Bullwinkle, you know what I'm saying? The flying squirrel. I was like, yeah, it was something to do with Rocky. Dude, it took me about 30 minutes to really get back to myself after just being startled muss out of me by that raccoon. I mean, oh my goodness, man. I mean, it'll be.
Look at him. He's scary.
It would have even been different had when I opened it up, it jumped out, which it still would have shocked me. But the fact that the lid closed and then all of a sudden, like some type of action movie when someone's pulling out two guns, jumping out of something, the raccoon basically jumped. It was, ooh, man, that one, it had me right there, buddy. It had me, that raccoon. But I faced it, and I let it know that I was the man. And then I said, I got to watch this raccoon and see where he walks because I don't want him to walk the way that I'm walking. So I watched him. He climbed up a tree. But I don't even think that's like the queen raccoon because the raccoon that we're thinking about is this real big husky raccoon around here, right? Husky. and it wasn't that husky, so it may have been one of that raccoon's kids or whatever. But it was definitely startling. I don't think ever. And mind you, I wasn't taking out the trash, but I don't think I'm taking out the trash at nighttime anymore. Even if it crosses my mind, that bad boy's going out in the daytime. Just
don't be afraid. You just walk up to him, say, "I know you're an Avenger star, but I'm a big fan. I'd love an autograph." That's all.
That's Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Just don't say Avengers. Just throwing Avengers in there like that.
That's the last we saw him.
Okay. But the funny thing is, I do feel like I've come to some type of agreement with this raccoon. So I feel like we know, all right, you do your thing, I'll do mine. But still, dude, that was oh yeah, for sure. But still, that was
they wear a mask for a reason. Can't trust them.
I know. Always stay ready. Stay ready. I'm ready to rob at any moment, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got you, Ken. Wink. More like I got you dead next time I see you.
So that was my crazy wildlife story that took place last night. And Kelsey then goes upstairs into Kent's room because it faces into the alley. And it's like, I'm going to spot him. I'm going to spot him with this flashlight, and I'm going to scare him. I don't know what to do. I don't know. My neighbor who has the chickens, I talked to him last year about the raccoon, because the raccoon goes from my neighbor to the south of me through my yard, because I think it's in the neighbor to the south of me's garage. I got a good feeling from someone who did construction on that garage that there's a bunch of raccoons over there, right? A bunch, which is like, what the hell is going on?
You got rats instead of raccoons, huh?
You got raccoons instead of rats.
Yes.
So, but because I told the neighbor 2 houses north, like, hey, that has the chickens, like, yo, that raccoon is crawling through my yard, and it was a possum at the time, and it's coming over your way because you had those chickens over there. So the raccoon drifts all the way over there. But dude was like, yeah, I tagged him and made it seem like he was going to get him. And I just sitting here wondering, like, when is this going to take place? And those things, they can have rabies.
Wearing the hat next
right? They can have rabies and all types of just nastiness, just to say the least. But yeah, that raccoon, I feel like it lost that day. It didn't beat me because it was eating and I disturbed its eating, and it scurried along its way without finishing its meal.
I like how it's a win-loss. We gotta break it down here on that Davis show. Who won? Who lost?
It was
the raccoon or Ken?
It was a victory. It wasn't the type of victory that, I anticipated going into to dropping off the recyclables. But you know what? We went out there today. There was a couple of variables we didn't expect, but we got back in the game. I stared that raccoon down, and I sent that raccoon along his way. So we took that W today, and we're going to take it all the times we see that damn raccoon. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go, team. On 3. Nah, but
let's go, Davis.
Let's go. But yeah, dude, that one. Woof, that was a bit much.
What was the harder part? That raccoon incident or reading Andy Dalton as the quarterback for the Bears?
Raccoon. That raccoon. It's personal. Andy Dalton is, you know what? Andy Dalton, I'm still numb from Andy Dalton being signed to the Bears. I'm sure everyone should know Andy Dalton was signed to the Bears for a 1-year deal for $10 million, and I think he has $3 more million in incentives. I know we all hope he's just going to be the backup, you know what I'm saying? And Nick Foles is going to be sent on his way. But I'm still just not, I mean, if you go into camp with Nick Foles and Andy Dalton, that would just, I don't know, I would have to go back in the annals of Bears quarterbacks to think about 2 guys that you felt like you couldn't depend on necessarily at this point in their career, both as far as starter and backup. It has to be one of those years when like P.T. Willis was the backup, or, Henry Burris, or, like just some of those type of cats, whoever the starter wasn't playing that well. And people opine for the backup. But yeah, I'm numb to it to a certain degree because I guess to a certain degree I have to wait to see what other shoe drops. Are they going to move up in the draft? Are they going to sign Trent Williams away from the 49ers? So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not happy. The fact that they could have done this last year, and you could have look at how much money he was paid by the Cowboys, and you gave up a 4th-round draft pick and more money to Nick Foles initially getting here is it's ridiculous. I mean, just to think he went from how did you didn't do anything in Dallas and they got the whip as far as skill players down there. We could talk about Zeke not being the old Zeke, but when you're talking about Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper, you got a triumvirate right there, receivers, right, in a pass-happy league. And you're supposed to be a quarterback that, from the pocket quarterback. How did he go down there for $3 million and increase his value? I mean, he played bad behind Dak after Dak went out with injury. So it's just bad business.
We know Ryan Pace wants to just throw money at free agent quarterbacks. He did the same thing with Mike Glennon. How did Mike Glennon get that bump? So I think that neck, just standard Pace. Yeah.
Pace saw that neck and he was like, "That's a long neck. I need to pay that man." Right.
It's literally a Sunny episode where it's like they're negotiating, it's like keeping his chin high. Ooh, he's got a high neck. That means you can trust him.
It's this guy. It's this guy on Instagram, and I think I forget what his name is, but he has a character. It's like Mike J something, but he has a character kind of like Down Bad Man, and he's always looking at something. Like it could be like a fish, a puffer fish moving his mouth, and he'll be looking at it, and he's perspiring, right? And he'll be looking at it, and then somebody be like, "Sir," and he'll turn around, he'd be like, "So give me that fish," right? And I feel like that was Ryan Pace when he saw Andy Dalton's neck, when he was like, "But sir, give me that man's neck." But yeah. It's still, I'm in agreement with you. He's made a ton of mistakes when it comes to quarterback in general here in Chicago. He's just made a lot of mistakes, to say the least, and it hasn't gotten better. And I mean, the only thing we can really say right now is you better go out and draft a quarterback. As far as moving up in this draft,
that's the plan, right? Like I'm thinking Andy Dalton is going to battle Nick Foles for the starting spot because they can't trade up high enough to get somebody in the top 10. I'm thinking that they'll probably hope that somebody falls around 10 if they're going to try to trade up. Maybe it's not even a first-round quarterback, but I think that's the plan, right? Draft a quarterback. He's the future, and for 1 year, we're going to stick with Foles and Andy Dalton.
That's bad business. But I'll say this, too. I'll say this. A part of me does not want them to just get rid of all the future regime, not this regime's draft capital. So I'll be honest with you. If let's just say they went to this draft, they sign Trent Williams, or they don't, but they draft a tackle, right? And fill out all their needs throughout the draft, and then go back into this next year, but don't sit there and give away first round picks. To be honest with you, I wouldn't be upset in a way. Now I'm saying that after I just said I hope they do something else. But I'm worried about letting Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace chase after money. You know what I'm saying? As far as like when you're I forget what it's called, when you're a gambler and you're trying to win just to replace the money that you lost. You know what I'm saying? Like if you ever played like DraftKings or something like that, and you play like whatever sport, but particularly let's just say football. And let's say on Sunday you go in, you lose $20. And then in Monday's game, you're trying to make it back up. And I don't want for them to keep getting opportunities to make it up and giving away draft capital like it's meaningless. So that's part of me wants them to stay pat. But I think the plan is to definitely move up to get a quarterback, and you have Alex Smith's restructuring down there in Atlanta. So we don't know if they're going to go quarterback or not. To me, if I was them, I would still draft a quarterback and just have Alex Smith be the starter next year in the quarterback. So let's just say if Fields is your guy, and a lot of people still question Fields' ability necessarily to move off his third, to move off of the third guy, the second guy to find a third guy, if you can make sure he doesn't get his first two reads, or the first two guys aren't open, I should say. So that's kind of the way that I look at it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, go out and draft one of these rookie quarterbacks. Hopefully not Mac Jones. Roll Tide all day. I'm not in on Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones in the right situation can be a good pro, but that's with a nice offensive line behind him, and an effective play caller shooting down the plays to him. And we definitely know as of now we don't have that in Matt Nagy. But again, perhaps with the connection between Andy Dalton and Bill Lazor, that's also telling us again that Bill Lazor is going to be the chief play caller, perhaps.
Look at this connection. Look at that eyesight.
Intensity. Look at that intensity. One day.
He got his guy.
Listen, I feel like he went, ugh. And he was like, Andy Dalton's like, what? And then Matt Nagy says to him again.
Right. Ugh. Andy's like, do I have to get in this close?
Right? Like,
do we really have to talk like this right now, Coach?
Red Rockets.
I might play for you one day, so I'll get close, but boy, I don't really like it.
Yes. So, what was your thoughts when you found out that the Bears had signed Andy Dalton?
I mean, I didn't have much hope for any of the big fishes being traded for. It just, honestly, all I keep thinking about is you really made a mess here. This regime. I mean, we were talking about Andy Dalton a year ago, and I thought of him as one of the most attractive options that was available for them to get outside of like Tom Brady and probably Teddy Bridgewater, because Teddy Bridgewater didn't want to come to the Bears since he had to battle for a starting spot with Mitch. But after seeing how Andy played and how you broke it down, like with all that talent around and supposedly this offensive coach and Mike McCarthy, they couldn't do anything right. And he looked beyond terrible. And he didn't look accurate. He didn't look good whatsoever. And that's really how Nick Foles looked. And he was another one where I thought maybe, you bring him in, he knows the system. Maybe he can give you at least competent quarterback play. I just don't even know if they can get that. And then if you really break it down, I mean, why does free agency really even exist? It exists because of all the mistakes you make in the draft when you have to go sign somebody because you couldn't draft that prospect and develop them. And you see that one quarterback drafted in 6 years for Ryan Pace.
Which is crazy for a guy to say he's going to do it, a quarterback every year. You know what? But he hit us. He knew what our weakness was in his Green Bay and how Green Bay had not just from drafting 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, but gained draft capital from Aaron Brooks, from Mark Brunell, from what's his name, and
Matt Flynn,
Matt Hasselbeck. Like all of those. I think Matt Flynn was a free agent, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he had that couple epic games.
I know what got him. I know what got him there, but I was just pointing out that not just having, and I mean, you could throw him in there
but
too.
You're saying they're getting the assets, yeah.
Yeah, they use those quarterbacks to gain more assets. Listen, like perhaps now this is a first rounder. Perhaps that's what's going to happen with Jordan Love, but you can't go higher than a first rounder. I mean, maybe somebody will give you a higher pick than where he was drafted, but I doubt that with no one having eyes on him for what would probably be 2 or 3 years at least. You know what I'm saying? But
you traded a first rounder to get him.
Right. So that's where I felt like Matt Ryan was talking that talk like a tricky stepdaddy. Just telling you whatever at the beginning, like, oh, I'm gonna be a good stepdaddy. I'm gonna be, and then next thing you know, he's a worthless ass stepdaddy. So that's kind of, I felt like so he was giving us a little bit of candy to trick us into liking him because the proof is in the pudding. As you just said, he's only drafted 1 quarterback, and the thing is too, after drafting Mitch, he had to be so determined to make sure that Mitch is successful that he dared not draft someone that the fans could be like, why aren't you putting him in? Or the media can be like, why aren't you putting that player in? So he definitely wasn't going to do it after picking up Mitch, and especially when he traded up 1 spot to get Mitch, and Mitch was the worst, was the least out of the 3 quarterbacks that went in the first round that year.
And I know for me, like just looking at Pace, like you go out of your way to get Matt Nagy, this supposed offensive quarterback guru, and you don't even draft like a late round prospect for him to try to develop, a mid-round prospect for him to just develop, especially when you're paying way too much to Chase Daniel as your backup at the time when Mitch was ascending and they were trying to, like you just said, put that comfortability around him and give that buffer zone. Like, hey, Mitch, you're our guy. You don't have any competition behind you, so don't worry. You just develop. But you knew you couldn't pay $10 million to your backup forever. You need to have some kind of other option. Is Tyler Bray really going to be your next backup, or you just have to sign somebody off the streets? I mean, you just pointed out again with Green Bay. We saw this with New England. We've seen this with plenty of teams. It's so worth it to draft another quarterback and try to develop him just on the off chance you might get a second or third or first rounder for a guy that people just want because he might have had a game or two. Like, to me, when I saw Andy Dalton flash across, these are the thoughts that went through my head. Just total, utter disregard and failure at the most important position in the sport that you are currently in. Without a quarterback, you're not doing anything. And if you just are going to put all your eggs in a Mitch basket, all your eggs in a Mike Glennon basket, and all your eggs in a Nick Foles basket, like, you don't have to be an NFL GM to tell you, you're putting a lot of eggs in the wrong basket.
You bad at basketing right there.
Right.
You a bad basketing MF right there, man.
Like go ahead and ask Ken. He's got extra eggs that he's given to D. He knows how to do with eggs and baskets. Apparently, Ryan Pace doesn't.
Yes, I did hook my buddy up with some nice organic brown eggs that he scooped up, but we did it very safe. We weren't face to face. I stuck my hand out the door. He had on a mask. Him and Gracie stopped by to grab those eggs, and shout out to them. And we're going to go see the Marvel exhibit at the museum. He's going to take me and my family since they have museum passes. And that way, yeah, so get to hang out with my old partner in the future after everyone gets shots that are going to get shots.
Yeah, that's great.
I talk to people. Some people aren't getting shots. I get it, though. I don't trust the government either, but yeah, I'll be stupid this time. I'm going to get that shot.
Yeah. Let's talk about the March Madness before we go down.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Go ahead. But so yeah, definitely, it's that time of the year. It's March Madness time, and actually here, and I don't think either one of us are huge Big Ten guys, but this is the year to be a Big Ten guy.
Usually the opposite.
Yeah, this is the year. Looking at Chicago native CVS alum, I live maybe a mile, not depending on the parking lot where I took range actually at CVS. And you do it in their parking lot. I'm not even that far from that parking lot. If we're talking about the main building, I'm almost a mile from it. But as I was telling you, when my cousin went there at the same time at the CVS. So you got Juwan Howard in Michigan, bringing Michigan back, even though they have been playing well before. But, now it's like, yeah. You have AU. You have everything that's going on with Underwood with the Fighting Illini, bringing that energy back from the past years. That has me the most stoked. Closer to home, you have Loyola in the same bracket as the Midwest bracket with.
Shout out to Jason right there. Loyola got some shafting when it came to seeding. He was probably very happy about that.
He's probably the person that hooked it up like that. Like,
right. The selection committee's calling them. Hey, they're number 10 in net. We should probably make them a 2 or 3 seed. Nah. Let me tell you about Porter Moser and this Harry Potter theme they got going on. This is an 8 seed that needs to play the Illini if they even advance.
Yeah, so it's just a happy times. I'm really stoked. You're going to go to Las Vegas this weekend, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go to Las Vegas this weekend for the start of it. I'm going to be down here in my basement, just soaking it all in. Definitely tuning into the Illini and Michigan games to say that out of 2 teams that I'm really following, maybe a little bit of Iowa. Just a couple of. I'm definitely going to look at a little bit of Oklahoma State just to see what Cade Cunningham is doing. So those are and also Gonzaga. With Suggs and those vets that are there. So
I just want them to win it.
Yeah, I do too. But it'd be funny if they won it this year because with Suggs there, it kind of feels like the least Gonzaga's team to have such a high prospect. That's a guy that's going to be drafted in the top 5, basically, to be a Gonzaga, and he's a one and done too. Like how many Gonzaga one and dones have we seen? So
was that Adam Morrison was like the last one or something like that?
But I don't think Adam Morrison was a one and done.
I don't even know.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't a one and done. You know what I'm saying?
I can't even think of a Zach that was a one and doneer like that.
Yeah, so that's just some of the interests that I definitely have about these upcoming games. What about you?
Yeah, I would say Michigan's a big one for me. I've really, ever since Beeline took over and then Howard now, I've really liked that program for whatever reason. So I've been rooting on them. I like them. Definitely going to be following the Illinois teams for sure, but just kind of bummed that it's most likely going to end for one of them within the second round at the most, because it's going to be Illinois and Loyola if both of them advance after their first round matchup. So obviously one of them is going to lose if that is the case. I do like the Gonzaga that you brought up. I kind of like Ohio State. I don't know why.
Oof. I don't want that Ohio. Listen,
too.
I'm happy they didn't end up in the same bracket as the Fighting Illini.
Yeah, I don't think they want to play him a third time.
Yeah, that game, woof, Lord, like that one, that was a hard fought game. Keep them away. You know what I'm saying? Like, let them meet them in the Final Four or whatever. But yeah, that Ohio State team is a nice team too. Like, it's just the Big Ten is pretty much stacked this year. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like fake stacked. It's legit stacked with talent and guys that have been there long enough and enough ball movement in the backcourts. We know that usually helps a lot when it comes to March Madness. So, man, it's going to be enjoyable, especially since last year we didn't have March Madness.
Right. And let's be real. I mean, the Illini, they're the favorite, right? I mean, they look tremendous. They're about as complete a team as I have seen at all. They're crazy athletic. Kofi Cockburn in the middle is a terrific big. They've got
they go with Coburn. I think they go with
Coburn. Sorry, Coburn. Yeah, me and my Illini knowledge. But they got the big. They got the number one.
You was waiting to get that out your mouth, wasn't you?
Oh yeah, and I love that. Now I'm blanking on the other kid.
Andre Cabela.
Yeah, I love his game and just him as kind of like a slasher creator kind of thing as a third option. They've got shooting, they defend. I mean, those Ohio State games, I was so impressed with them because Ohio State's coming with everything they got, and they've got plenty of talent. And Kevin Butler, their head coach, does a great job. He took over for Brad Stevens at Butler and then took over the Ohio State gig. They played them so tough, but those final 3-4 minutes, that's when Illinois would pull away. And that's usually a mark of a really great team, especially they're playing like this heading into the tournament.
I'm with you, but I worry if it's due to my biasness too, because I'm really feeling this Illini team. I feel this team, and I know it's going to be like heresy, I feel this team a little bit more than the Ron Williams, D. Brown, Luther Head squad. So I'm really feeling this team, and I really want them to go all the way. So I'm biased as far as me thinking that, you know what I'm saying, that they're a lock. I mean, you still have Baylor out there. I think Nevada did well this year. You got some squads, you know what I'm saying? It's March Madness, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like a lot of times the teams that are picked to go all the way, those aren't the teams that make it, you know what I'm saying? So
and then throw on the pandemic on top. We already have referees being sent home that were put
teams
into
that couldn't even try to get in. Like, look at what Duke, even though Duke may have not made it, but they had to shut it all down because of because of coronavirus.
Louisville, I think, is the first team in if they need to swap out a team for whatever reason in terms of COVID. But just a huge red flag when you've got a bunch of officials that they weren't prepared for in their Indiana complex hosting this, and then they send out the officials to go get something to eat and they all contract COVID. Like, what is going on? That's the officials. You got to get your shit together.
Yeah, dude. It's too much money on the line, and especially since the NCAA doesn't share it with the players, that they should.
And you missed out last year. Like, this is so important this year.
Great point. That you should have it set up. You should have it set up like to a certain degree, the NBA bubble. You know, and I'm sure that those officials, when it came to mealtime, how it was regimented so that they wouldn't come in contact with someone that perhaps has coronavirus. But yeah, they blew it with that one, man. And on top of that, it's worse because you're doing this to free labor that you're exploiting.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it'll be different if these were professionals getting paid. But when you're looking at these kids are entrusting you with their future, you're getting over on them, and then you're not even really taking care of them.
Yeah, and you think with all the money you're pocketing, you could get some real resources to preserve your tournament rather than, like if this thing unravels because you don't have the proper securities and protocols in place, like, boy, can we add another black mark to the NCAA, or do they even have room for another black mark?
You know what? I wonder, did they, by any chance, get in contact with the NBA and try to find out what were the key points of the bubble in Orlando at Disneyland or Wide World of Sports? Because you got to get that close to it, or even with the NHL, what they did last year. You got to go to the people that have really figured it out, so that you don't mess up. And again, you don't get someone sick. Maybe someone could really fall ill. You don't want that on you, especially how we feel about college athletics. So it's definitely going to be interesting. And on top of that, too, these young men, I mean, are they going to stick to the script and stay in their hotel rooms? Make sure that they don't come in any contact with anybody. So
and
they don't affect.
Indiana's going to be putting on the celebrations around them. Can you stay away from that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if the All-Star game is the spot to show up in because you want to meet an NBA player, what about before it gets to the NBA? I would think the Final Four it's got to be in the top 5 or 6, right? As far as,
and this is Indiana. They pop boners for basketball. Like, this is their sport. This is the one they go crazy over. The Hoosiers, right. And especially when it's college athletics, are sweet, innocent college players that never ever want anything except integrity and the respect of the game. You would think that they are just going crazy with celebrations, parties in Indiana. I don't know what their COVID restrictions are for the regular citizens, but I would imagine that this is a potential.
Oh, they weren't. Come on. Indiana was open for the most part. Like, they may have had some restrictions, but come on, it's Indiana.
That.
All right.
That was my assumption.
All right. Listen, that's the state that the old governor used to call his wife Ma. All right, Ma. So yeah, dude, you know damn well that they were that it was open like MF. They didn't. I don't even want to get into that, but
yeah, this is gonna turn into Indiana hate real soon.
Yeah, it's gonna turn into a flip. Turn into a flip before you know it.
Screw that Indiana! Side with me, Jason, like I did with Loyola.
What you got next?
Any spring training stuff with the Cubs and Sox winding down? They played each other recently. How you feel about the baseball season coming up pretty soon here?
It's spring training, but my team hasn't played the way I would desire. I hope it's just they're just getting ready for the season, and it's not that they're going to start off slow. To be honest with you, I feel like a week or two ago, I was more into it. I guess, I'm usually working, so I'm not streaming. But I would have loved to see more of the games, especially now that NBC Sports only has the Sox. You would think you don't have to worry about the Sox and the Cubs. You would think they would play more of the spring training games just to get us ramped up, especially, we're all fiending for it. So, and the thing is, it pops up on my television when they play, but that doesn't mean necessarily that I can view it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it'll alert me, hey, the Sox are playing so-and-so, the Padres, right? But like when I turn to just see MLB TV, NBC Sports and NBC Sports Plus, the game isn't there. And I'm like, man, I really want to see it, but I'm sure I could stream it. But like I said, I've been busy.
Another weird thing with this spring has been, because we were looking at the games and all that stuff, They all play during the day, and you might have one night game. So that's kind of, I think, part of it too. Because normal spring training, I think they're doing a mix of day and night games. But because of the pandemic and everything, I think that they're trying to limit how many games are being accessible to people. So they play basically all of them at 1 o'clock with maybe a night game.
You can still put my team on. Like, it's local. You can run that. Just put them on there so we can see it. But I mean, again, I'm not in baseball mode. I was, like I said, about a week or two ago, just hyped for the season to come back. When they start the season, I'm going to get locked back into it. I'm just worried, to be honest with you. And I know I shouldn't be like that. But when you've been in this toxic relationship that we are with a lot of our teams here in Chicago, it's hard to think like the good old days are coming around the bend. And you worry that how long those days last, you know what I'm saying? I.e., Derrick Rose blowing his ACL, you know what I'm saying? Like,
how about the Cubs looking like monsters after 2016 and then turning little kitties?
Right. You know, like, and as a younger man, a kid growing into a teenager, you know, it's a dude that proved to me like, man, if I'm here every year, it's legit. And that's a different type of poke your chest out that Jordan gave us. I sometimes feel like it's the curse of MJ. Like, you get this greatness, just you got to pay for many years after having this type of greatness.
But didn't we pay for a lot of years before Jordan? Wasn't that like the prize for paying already? Or was the 85 team like your reprieve?
No. It was because, I mean, you got to look at them. They were an expansion team. How many expansion teams do we see? Like, especially back in the days. No, but
I'm saying in Chicago, because the Cubs were beyond terrible. The White Sox were beyond terrible. Only thing was the 85 Bears and the little run in the late 80s. Besides that, I thought that was the reason for Jordan, for all the Chicago sports misery. So you get Jordan.
No, you had Sweetness, you had Gale, you had Dick, but you got to pay for all of that, you know. And of course, we're joking, but you got to pay. Because I'll say this real quick: back in the days, expansion teams used to suck forever, like until like the Raptors,
Diamondbacks, maybe.
Yeah, like those teams kind of twisted it. The Marlins, you know,
the Vegas Knights.
Yeah, yes, but like Tampa Bay before Tony Dungy was the jokingest joke of all jokingest jokes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
only thing good about them was the creamsicle.
Right. And those teams usually, you know, those expansion teams, it usually takes forever, especially if they don't have the right front office to be able, through an expansion draft and through the draft, to be able to set the players up, kind of like what you said about the Vegas Knights, as far as how well they set them up through the expansion draft. But yeah, usually you suck. So the Bulls suck because they were an expansion team. They missed. I think they could have drafted Kareem and they didn't get it on a flip, and or the same thing applies to Magic. I think they could have had Magic. It's one of the two was on a coin flip that they lost out on.
With Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah, you know, even though throw him in with Terry Bradshaw. You know what I'm saying? So it's still getting back to the baseball. I just hope it goes well. You know what I'm saying? I think Sox fans, it's the summertime. We're going to be able to go to the stadium. I mean, out at the guaranteed rate, to kind of commiserate with one another. It's gonna be a lovely time. I just want the victories, and I don't want to see the Dodgers in the World Series if I had my druthers. You know, but
I'm right there with you.
I want to see what both teams do. Hopefully, the Cubs start out hot and strong. I want both teams to play well because it provides us with entertainment and content. You know, especially coming off of a football season that it was stressful the entire season.
Right.
You know, even the 5-1, it was just the most stressful 5-1 that you ever have seen. You know, coming off the Bulls really not doing anything to take our mind off of, you know what I'm saying, the Bears. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's better, but still kind of.
Yeah, it's still like, it's, you know, and you put so many years in with these teams that, especially when you're younger, that you go through the ups and downs, and when you get older, you don't feel like the downs as much as you did when you were younger. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, hopefully the Sox can give us a reprieve and shine some sunshine on this funk that is Chicago sports right now.
But definitely, the Cubs need to get off to a good start compared to the Sox. I think we Is that safe to say that we both kind of feel like the Sox are better equipped to eventually be the strong team by the end of the season?
I disagree with that. I'll say this. Because all you guys really got to worry about is the Cardinals for the most part. Where you still got the Twins. You don't know. Cleveland's has pitching up the yin yang.
They do have pitching.
They have pitching, and you can go far with some pitching. You may not be able to win it all, but you can go far with some pitching. So those, like, if the Sox start off bad and those two teams start off hot, yes, they have more weapons that you would think they should be able to catch up. But I mean, if those teams stay hot, you know what I'm saying? Who knows? So I would say that really both teams you don't either one of them to start off slow. They may be just 500 and middling, but I think that the AL Central, I should say, being more difficult is a reason where you don't want to start off slow and get behind two teams instead of just getting behind the Cardinals in the NL Central.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I guess my thinking is just I feel like attrition, the dog days, and some of that stuff, it's going to be a lot harder for the Cubs to deal with. I just don't think they have enough talent to just, muscle their way to a good record versus the Sox, who, may obviously they should get off to a hot start. They should try to win as many games as possible. And if they go through a lull, that's not a good thing. But they have those weapons, both in the pitching staff, the bullpen, the offense, that I feel like attrition isn't going to bother them as much as the Cubs.
I can understand that. I can understand that. Even though the Cubs do have more talented people, give them props as far as the core players that they have there.
I think my big thing is the pitching. Like, I just don't know how that staff's going to be. We got the slow tossers this year.
Low velo you got going on over there.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Does that mean
painting the corners?
Does that mean they have the healthiest pitching staff all year long or something? Or does it just mean every few days you're getting rocked pretty bad? Right.
Yeah.
Here's 91. Here's 89. See ya.
It goes as hot 87.
Oh, look at that movement. Oop, moved out of the park.
All right, Ryan, let's go up for grabs.
Let's start off with some NFL free agency. And it hasn't started quite yet. We're waiting for the new league calendar to start and all that good stuff. But what have you thought of the deals that have been reported, and what has surprised you the most?
The Patriots and Bill Belichick. Like, I ain't taking this Tom Brady. Like, I thought
the jilted lover.
Yeah, it's like he went and bought a sports car or something after she left him. Right. I thought he was going to use this time. Not to say he still won't. To rebuild this team through the draft, and he still can do that. But I didn't see him going out and spending like he's trying to get the Gronk and what's the name? Hernandez. He's trying to get. Thank you, Aaron Hernandez back with the two tight ends, Smith and Hunter Henry. The Judon. I like Judon.
Good tight ends, by the way.
Yeah, like and also if you look at it. It kind of plays into Cam's strength as far as being a guy that, really used his tight end down there with the Panthers. So now you have two of them bringing in Nelson Aguilar, and I'm not saying that he's a world beater or whatever, but we know they lack speed. That was one of the problems when Tom Brady's last year there. The receivers couldn't get any separation. You still got Edelman over there, man. And then let's not all those defensive players. All those defensive players come back, but also remember this, they didn't accrue a year last year. So you still got them like, hey, if they had 2 years left, they still got 2 years left. So
maybe that's why he's kind of spending, knowing that I have a bunch of guys on a free year. Maybe this is the year to spend.
Yeah, so that to me definitely stood out. That he was like, I'm gonna show you. Bob Kraft was like, no. He's like, I'm gonna show you how to spend this dough, and that stood out to me. What stood out to you?
Yeah, Patriots would definitely be my number one, but I guess besides the Patriots, I guess it's kind of been some of the Bear stuff. Besides what we've talked about with the quarterback, just hearing Bears are trying to trade Anthony Miller. Leonard Floyd, ex-Bear, gets his 4-year, $64 million deal from the Rams. and that was a top 10 pick you trade up for that you tried to develop and you couldn't do it. I think I saw on Twitter, Lawrence Holmes, he put a great question. Like, does Ryan Pace get the win for drafting a prospect that gets that contract, or does he get the loss for picking the wrong coaches to develop that player?
He gets the loss.
I think so too.
He gets the loss. And listen, how all in you were with Mitch, and of course you wanted more sacks from Leonard Floyd. That's really the number that hurt him as much as you wanted more sacks. I don't know. I believe the first year with Mac, the pressures may have been there for him, even though the sacks may not have been. But you wanted more sacks, and you kept telling us all the time about how versatile of a player he is. And instead of sticking with him, and I'm not knocking you for not sticking with him, because to a point it didn't make sense from what we've seen in the past to pay him $15 million of that last season. But then he goes to a team with even better defensive superstar in Aaron Donald and just takes off. You know what I'm saying? And it shows you that you didn't have him. You didn't have him right. You didn't set him up. You know what I'm saying? And that could have helped you a lot, and not giving Robert Quinn. Because listen, the Bears wouldn't. If the Bears could have signed him for a lot less than that had they went to him with a deal the year before. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Shuddy, we give you $35 million, about 3 years, paying him like $9 million a year, depending on what incentives he has, to say what his cap hit will really be that year. But let's say the deal, if you paid him $9 million for 3 years, it'd be $27 million guaranteed. Let's say you give him $35-40 million contract. He probably would have taken that, because think about it. If he was so sought after, there would have been teams offering him a whole contract last offseason, and not just to play on the value of the franchise tag, the tag that he was going to get from the Bears, the 5th-year tag. You know what I'm saying? So the Rams were like, here, you're going to get $15 million from the Bears. We'll give you this $15 million. Prove it, right? If he was killing, teams would have been out the door trying to sign him and give him money. So the Bears could have gotten him for less money, and they messed up. Yep. I see why, but you're supposed to know this better than I do. You know what I'm saying? And you had the faith, as you said, to move up to get him in the first place. So that mistake, it's coupled with another bad contract signing from a guy that didn't produce whatsoever last year in Robert Quinn. That's one-dimensional as far as he's not a run stuffer. He's known for just pressuring the QB, and you got rid of a guy who was a better all-around player, who hadn't proven as much as Robert Quinn, but you had to give Robert Quinn all that money to shore up a spot that you thought you shored up through the draft.
Yeah, and I think on top of it too, besides what you said, the coach, Brandon Staley, he was in your building. You could have had him as defensive coordinator after Vic Fangio left, because Vic took him to Denver to be whatever position before he was hired by the Chargers. You could have had this guy in your building. I'm sorry, with the Rams before he went to the Chargers. You could have had this guy who clearly got the development out of Leonard Floyd, and then you look at it, well, you went with Chuck Pagano instead, and you had to go to Sean Desai, maybe because Chuck just wanted to retire, maybe it was a forced retirement, but clearly the cohesiveness you had with that 2018 defense was gone. Either the scheme change didn't work enough for the overall unit, but there's been a clear drop-off, and you wonder, you had Brandon Staley, like you said, you signed Leonard. Looking at a lot more money right now. Are you looking at more possibilities right now? Instead of now, you're so locked in with Robert Quinn and some of these other guys that you got to hope that they come through.
You better pray they come through. But again, excuse me, you got Eddie Goldman coming back. And that's definitely going to help that front seven, having him there, being that great run stuffer, at least the 4th, perhaps best nose tackle in the NFL. And maybe that'll help Robert Quinn and also Akeem Hicks if he's here, so that, you can't have as many people on Khalil Mack. But we'll see, man. It's unfortunate, because there was so much hope here in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
We thought perhaps we had a defense that was on par to be as good, maybe better than the Otts team of Briggs, Urlacher, Olin Kreutz and those guys, and I'm sure they were laughing in our face then, and they really rub our nose in it now, just because the team was hot one year compared to them. They maybe not been consistently back-to-back years, but they had definitely hot seasons during that reign. So it's just when you look at it, and you would have hoped that sometimes teams they dip. Like you look at the Browns last year. I was telling D when he was like, yeah, the Browns going to be the team. And it's like, you can't have all that. Freddie Kitchens not knowing what he's doing, jumping up 2 jobs.
I forgot about Freddie.
You're running the team, basically, the organization, picking the coach. And, it's not going to come together like that. But then you see what they did this year. You know what I'm saying? And so you hope that perhaps, 2019, the Bears, they were 8-8. They're going to come back next year. They brought in Robert Quinn. You know what I'm saying? They started off 5-1, even though we knew the 5-1 was BS. But you would hope that they could right the ship, and the ship seems to just be taking on more and more water. But they're good at plugging up holes, but they're not good at bailing the rest of this and figuring out the problem and fixing it.
They may be good at keeping afloat, but that's about it. Not at getting to the destination.
Now we're about to flip the dinghy over and have to lay atop the top of it, the bottom of it, I should say, just to make sure we get to safety. So it's not the best situation.
What was your nickname for Freddie? Was it Freddie Get Out of the Kitchens?
I don't think I had a nickname for Freddie.
You had something for Freddie.
I don't remember it, but
some digging. Freddie, too many cooks in the kitchens.
I don't know. I just knew he shouldn't have been the head coach. If you want to make him the OC, that's one thing. But to go from a position coach all the way to head coach because the quarterback told you that was the move. And that'd be different if this was like a 10-year veteran. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a second-year quarterback, and you like, whatever you want. And it's just like, come on now, stop. Relax.
Who's worse, Freddie Kitchens or Jim Tom Sula?
Oh, that's a good question. Freddie Kitchens.
Jim. Oh, nice. Yeah, I can't argue. Freddie was pretty bad.
Listen, on top of that, he had a lot of weapons. Like, it wasn't like, that's the same team basically this year that was there last year. So, when you look at the receiving core, you look at defensively what they had, you know what I'm saying? Like, you do, and you're supposed to be an offensive guy. So you were supposed to be able to figure out how to make sure that you accentuate all the talents that you have, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So I think, and it could be recency bias, but I think it's Freddie Kitchens.
My last up for grabs made some news from the king, LeBron James, who has joined the Fenway Group and has become a part owner of the Red Sox. And the Fenway Group is going to be looking into investing into more teams that they can buy. What do you make of the latest investment that LeBron James has made?
Don't they own one of those Premier League teams too? The Fenway Group, I believe. I think maybe it could be. So. Maybe it may not be Premier League. It could be La Liga. But I thought they owned a football team over in Europe. I wonder how much him and Maverick had to pay to get into that. Was the first thing that I thought. Like, how much ownership are we talking about? How much did you put? LeBron is wealthy enough, not to say he did, but he could drop $150 with the amount of money that he has coming in regularly. And I also know that that's an investment. So it's not like $150 that's going to go away, even though if the teams are struggling, you have to put some more money into it. But I saw Bill Maher talk about the Mets and how he had to keep writing checks for the Mets because he had a Mets stake. But the thing was, when the team was sold to his new owner, he said he made it off like a fat rat. So, if you can handle it, man, that's one thing D used to always say, man, if you have opportunity to buy a team, always do it because you're always going to make your money back and a lot more. So I'm happy. It's another move for LeBron and Maverick Carter to sit there and set precedents. Going out there, joining up with the Red Sox group, the Fenway group, I should say. We all know they're smart businessmen. So hey, you're putting yourself around smart people to make more money. Clearly, he's going to be a billionaire within 5-6 years. You know what I'm saying? Like I would think. You know what I'm saying? So LeBron. There's very few things that LeBron has done that haven't been great. To say the least. So it's more props to both of them on just being outstanding dudes and brothers.
And Liverpool was the Premier League that they own.
Okay.
Yeah, I think LeBron would be a terrific owner, just period. He seems like the type that would be a great owner. So I would definitely be excited if LeBron James was a primary owner of one of the teams that I rooted for. And I could care less about the Red Sox, basically. But I think it's still cool that he's got a part ownership there, his stepping stone. And I think one day he's going to do the Jordan. He's going to flat out just own a team in some kind of sport and be the main guy.
He's going to own it. He's going to own the NBA team. It's not even a question that he will. It's more of if. And the thing is, the league's going to want him. But do you think
he'd maybe go to, like, let's say he had a chance to get an NFL team. Would he take that over an NBA team?
Maybe, but I think he would set it up to where he could part own a team and not be the major owner of one of those, or NFL, because usually with the NFL you can't own anything else. Usually, I think, but they can make some concessions occasionally, and they may make a concession just because he's LeBron James and he's a minority. But you want to have that guy in your ownership ranks. But yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I think his team, if he owned a basketball team, they would figure it out before Michael Jordan, who basically just figured it out with LaMelo falling into his lap. That because I think LeBron, when you look at what he did with his partners, as far as Maverick Carter and the other two guys, I forget their names now, and I forget what the acronym is for their group. But you see how he set them up and they took off. I think he'll be able to do the same a lot easier than Michael Jordan has, because sometimes it seems like Jordan might have just had yes people around him initially down there in Charlotte. So I mean, it's props, man. And just an outstanding young man, comes up from hard times, and I mean, how has he let us down? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm saying he has let us down.
China. No, I'm kidding.
Don't do that.
Just kidding.
Don't do that.
That's what the LeBron haters would say. You know that.
Yeah.
Oh, what about China? You forget about China? What about that shit?
Yeah.
Forget about that?
That's more props to him, man. More props, more success, more money. Just keep doing your thing, man, and keep, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, bitches.
No.
That was a joke.
Damn. I know. I'm joking with you. I mean, it's come on, man. We got to clean this act up.
See, I'm feeling the opposite. We need to dirty it up.
You sound like Matt Nagy staring into Andy Dalton's eyes.
I channeled that picture. Make it dirty.
So,
Red Rocket.
Do you like it dirty, Andy? It's like, what? Dirty Nagy.
I'm going to call you Dandy, you dirty Andy.
You dirty Andy Dandy. Oh, my God. Oh. All right. We always appreciate you for taking some time out of your day to listen to us discuss sports and whatnot, whatever we're discussing. Now, please be safe, because it's kind of crazy out there. Be careful with COVID, man. It's still out there, even if some people, it's not out there. It's not true. I saw, like, what's the motivational guy? Was like Tim Robbins? Is that the motivational guy?
Yeah, Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. Man, I saw him going off about COVID on Instagram the other day. My man is not having it, right? He's really, really not having it. I mean, some of the stuff he said wasn't crazy, but still, he was not having it. I was like, all right, I get you, I guess. But yeah, just take care of yourself, man, and make sure you check out the Flippin' Friends. That'll be probably dropping our next installment, even though we may get a guest this week. Also, make sure you check out the Under Center podcast. We got a new episode of that just dropped today, too, discussing Andy Dalton, a little bit of Trent Williams. But yeah, Ryan and me always appreciate it, man, and we'll see you on the other end.